Live with CDP Sports Talk, a weekly sports and entertainment podcast sponsored by Barry Cullen Chevrolet. Live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and LinkedIn. And on audio via Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Spotify, Anchor FM, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Radio Public, and TuneIn. Now, here's your host, Chris Palme.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Season 6, Episode 35 of Live with CDP Sports Talk, brought to you by Barry Cullen Chevrolet Dealership at 905 Woodlawn Road West in the Guelph Auto Mall. Check out barrycullen.com for the newest selection of new and pre-owned GM vehicles, or give them a call at 519-824-0210, or email them at info@barrycullen.com as well. Live with CDP Sports Talk is on weeknights from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. on radio station WQEE 99.1 FM in Metro Atlanta, the home of Southern Talk and Sports. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Season 6, Episode 35, Live with CDP Sports Talk on this Monday, August 14th, 2023. Time's just going by quick. Summer's almost done, and I'm looking forward to my guest tonight. I'm going to bring him on in just 1 second. I have so many graphics on here. So I'm going to bring on my guest tonight, and we're going to talk a little OHL and a little bit about the Guelph Storm and maybe a little bit about the Oakland A's and Blue Jays. His name is Ryan Drury, the radio personality on CKNX in Wingham, Ontario. He's also the play-by-play voice of the Guelph Storm on Rogers TV, and he's the podcast host of his own podcast, Instigating Pod, as well, with Clarkey and Drury. So I'm going to bring on Ryan. Good evening, Ryan. How you doing?
I'm doing well, my friend. How are you?
I'm doing okay on this Monday, August 14th, 2023. Where's the summer gone?
Yeah, no kidding, eh? It just flies by, but that's good news for us and other OHL fans because OHL hockey's a month away.
And I was going to say the Kitchener Rangers, I believe they put in their ice today at the Odd, and I'm assuming the Sleeman Center and the other rinks will be doing that soon as well for training camp.
Yeah, absolutely. It's an exciting time. I know that, there's a lot of fans out there that, it's an interesting time given that everybody kind of feels like it's a new year, it's a new start. It's a kind of why not us feeling for everybody. There's new players, new draft picks, new prospects to be excited about. And particularly in Guelph, I think, because I think that the Storm are going to be poised to be one of the better teams in the league this year, hopefully.
How did you like their off season with the draft? And they just recently acquired a veteran defenseman. I'm trying to think what his name is, from the North Bay Battalion.
Braden Hislop.
Hislop.
Yeah, I like their off season a lot. I think that the team had a goal of trying to solidify their goaltending position, which was a little up and down last year up until, Patrick Lever came in and gave them a bit of a veteran presence after Jacob Oster had a tough start, albeit, the team had a tough start. They had just a brutal start to the season. I believe they were 2-11-1 at one point. It was rough going at the Sleeman Center and on the road. And I know that they had a goal to try and bring a little bit more size to the roster, a little bit more snarl. And I feel like they've done that, bringing Hislop in, who will, of course, kind of complicate in a way their overage situation because they're going to have to decide who they want to keep around. But then you look at the import draft. Now they let Valentin Jugan go, who I always felt was a guy that had a lot more untapped potential, and maybe he'll have an opportunity to realize that in Saginaw. But I really like the kids they brought in, the Vancouver Canucks kid, the Ulrichsen kid out of Sweden. He's 6'4". He's a monstrous kid, and I think that they have designs on him potentially being a net front presence and certainly exerting his size out there. And, the Slavic kid that they brought in net, out of Slovakia, who had very good showings at home and in a couple international tournaments. Hislop coming in, obviously, as well, like we just mentioned, and they're going to return a cast of very potent and very capable offensive and defensive players. So I'm excited about what they can potentially do after all those moves.
And the Storm just brought in an assistant coach that I had on my show a year ago from the Niagara Ice Dogs, Daniel Fitzgerald. What's your thoughts about bringing him in as an assistant coach under Chad Wiseman?
I think it's another good ad, and it kind of, adds more of that junior flavor, the GOJHL flavor. I mean, obviously his brother and he were involved with the Cambridge Redhawks. I know Adam pretty well. I've talked to him numerous times, his brother, and it's just another guy with plenty of experience, and more importantly, plenty of experience handling players in this age group. And he's a guy who's been around a lot of really talented kids and helped get the best out of them. And I think that he's going to have a lot of interesting ideas in terms of trying to help out on special teams, which is an area much more so on the penalty kill that the Storm struggled with in that faltering start that they had last year. I mean, even their power play to start the year was not what I would describe as, exceptional, or certainly up to par of what we thought they could do with it. It really started clicking in the second half and down the home stretch toward the playoffs, but their penalty killing was dead last in the league, and it was dead last for a reason. It was completely disjointed. They couldn't quite get it right. It did get better in the second half, but not enough for them to climb out of 20th. And that was shocking, given that I believe the year prior they were 4th in penalty killing. It was an unbelievable drop off. We knew that they would struggle with some of the guys that didn't come back, like Daniel Chayka and Luka Profaka. When you take two big burly defenders away from a team, you expect a drop off, but not from 4th to 20th. So I think Fitzgerald's going to come in and have an opportunity to really put his stamp on some different ideas and work with Chad, who has plenty of experience being an assistant coach prior to last year, and work with the rest of that group there to try and get things off to a much better start this season.
Well said. What were your overall thoughts on Chad Wiseman's first year behind the bench after Burnett went to being the general manager? And we've already talked about Daniel Fitzgerald, but just thoughts on Wiseman's first year behind the bench, and what would you like to see from him in a second year as the coach of the Guelph Storm?
You know what? I thought Chad had a lot of unfair detractors at the start of that season, because obviously going into the year, coming out of the first season from full COVID cancellation, the Storm were a really solid team. Surprising. A lot of people picked them to finish 8th that year, maybe 7th at best, and they surprised a lot of people. And heading into last season, that caused maybe a bit of an overreach in expectations, because, you'll remember, Chris, they were ranked as the 4th best team in the CHL, not the OHL, the Canadian Hockey League. They were positioned as the 4th best team in the country. And when you do that, boy, you're setting yourself up with a team made up of mostly young players for, I don't want to say failure, but for slight disappointment. And they went well beyond that. And to Chad's credit, he weathered that storm, and he had to find his footing really quickly as a head coach, because he went into the season thinking, I'm going to be an assistant coach to Scott Walker, who unfortunately, it was announced in the summer, he was going to come back. And unfortunately, he couldn't because of health reasons. And we all wish Scott well. I hope he's doing well. We saw him a little bit throughout the season. He looked to be doing okay, but he was supposed to be the head coach. And literally right before the season, it was announced he didn't think he'd be able to do it, and didn't want to take away from the team if he wasn't able to be there consistently. And so all of a sudden, Chad's a head coach, and that would be jarring for anybody, having to switch roles like that, significant roles, mind you. But just like the team in the second half of that year, I really feel like the Christmas break and that bit of time leading into the trade deadline did a lot of good for the Storm, because they all got to step away and go, okay, We're through that first half of the season. We've not met expectations that prognosticators set out for us. We're not the fourth best team in the country, but now we're in a position where we need to come together and forget about that and just become a team right now. And Chad was the catalyst of that. Like, he kept a positive attitude that entire time. It would have been really easy for Chad, and by extension, the group, to start sagging their shoulders in late November, early December, when all of a sudden Pastajov's gone and then Danny Zhilkin gets shipped out. Like, there go your two best offensive players heading into the year anyway, because some guys really stepped up. It would have been super easy for that whole team to sag their shoulders and go, you know what, we're just not as good as people thought we were going to be, and this sucks. And that's not what happened. I saw Chad all the time before games walking around. He had a positive attitude the entire time, which is so critical when you're coaching kids. Let's remember, these guys are kids. And he was positive the entire time. And I really felt like, and to answer the second part of your question, you know, what do I want to see from him this year? Just more of what he did in that second half. He started, and so did the team by extension, taking ownership of their situation, getting fired up. He had a real intensity about him in the second half of that season that we noticed up in the booth, Mark Pare and I, that maybe was missing a little bit as they stumbled and tried to find their footing in the first half. He was in refs' faces. He was debating calls. He was getting fired up, standing up for his guys. And that's what you want to see as a head coach. Intensity, but controlled intensity. And that's what I felt he had. And it spurred them on to a great second half finish and ultimately a playoff spot. And I think that that's going to bode well, because now they're going to go into this year and have that similar confidence of going, we know we can do it. We saw ourselves do it last year when people were counting us out. Let's start the year like that, because we know who we are now.
And how important is it to have stability with the franchise? Obviously, the new owners have owned the team a couple years now. I'm not sure what their names are. I know they're lawyers out of Toronto. And then George Burnett. How important is it having stability with this franchise long term?
Yeah, I can't say I know who the new owners are too. I'm sure people do. I actually think they might own like a furniture company or something.
Okay.
I don't know though, but hey, like they're doing
quiet.
more of the same of what that last ownership. Yeah, they're a little more drawn back and reserved. I haven't seen them around or certainly met them, but hey, they bought a great franchise and it continues to be a great franchise. But in terms of stability, you know, it's so important, especially at this level. Like, you need, when you're dealing with teenagers and young men who are, many of them looking to make a jump to play pro hockey, maybe go and play collegiate hockey, play overseas, or no matter what it is that they want to do with their lives after they play in the OHL, you've got to make sure that you have people in positions of power within your organization that are going to foster a positive environment for these guys to thrive in. And I don't know if you could pick out many people in this league, let alone the OHL, maybe even the entire country, that are better than that, than George Burnett. Like, George Burnett is a guy that when you hear his name, you think of professionalism, excellence, determination, and an unwavering belief in what he feels is necessary to make a club successful. And, you know, the guy is an incredible hockey. He's a rink rat. Like, George is a very quiet dude. When you talk to him, he's very laid back. I always feel like when I'm talking to George, and it's probably because I'm a member of the media, to be fair, I always feel like he's holding something back. Like, he wants to say more than he's giving you, but he's a smart guy and he holds his cards close to his chest. But I don't feel like he does that with the team behind closed doors. Everyone knows where they stand with George, and that's why people are able to go out and do their job with confidence. Look, like we just talked about with Chad, it would have been very easy, and it wouldn't have shocked anybody probably if George in November last year fired Chad, went behind the bench, tried to right the ship, quote unquote, whatever, you know, platitudes you want to throw out there. And he didn't do that. He believed in this group. He made some big trades. Let's not, shy away from that. He made some big moves that ended up becoming very smart moves that could really propel them to success this year. They've got a boatload of picks still that they can really play with. And they took in a reclamation project, if you will, from that Pastajov deal in Max Nemesnikov, who absolutely popped off and became one of the most electric goal scorers in the league. Like, George is the picture of stability. He's fourth all time in OHL wins for a reason. And that's incredible when you just take that aside from everything he's done as an executive. Fourth all time in wins. The guy cares and he wants to win, but he wants to win the right way and make sure that there's an environment there where the kids are having fun. They enjoy coming to the rink. And even when they were struggling and not doing well, I can't say I ever came down the tunnel. I typically walk by the players as they're doing their pregame warmups. They were all having a good time with each other. It seemed like a group that really liked each other. And that all starts at the top. I didn't see anybody slumming around or hanging their heads or anything like that. They were all positive and they all enjoyed coming to the rink. And when you have people at the top like George and Chad and all the way down, that really that whole organization, that matters, and you can tell.
Absolutely. And you know this as well as I do, Ryan, in any sport, the teams that are successful are consistent, whether you like them or not, like the London Knights or the New England Patriots. It all starts with the top ownership to the GM, to the coach. It starts from the top down.
Yeah, it certainly does. And I mean, I love that you brought up my New England Patriots. I say my Patriots. I'm a diehard fan. I don't necessarily know if it's fun to play for the New England Patriots, but they win a lot. I mean, certainly not the last couple of years, but
for 20 years.
Well, hey, I let me just say I had a great childhood. I had a real fun childhood watching those Patriots teams. But you're right. Your example holds water there still, because if you're stable at the top and your ownership shows they care and the coaches show they care, they're prepared, they expect that of you, there's a respect there.
Yeah.
Everybody comes to the field, the pitch, the rink, whatever, and they want to perform at the highest level. And that's how you do it. You have stability and a mutual respect for the people that you're working with. And that's what gets it done. That's who succeeds.
Absolutely. One of my guests that was on about 2 months ago, the voice of the Kingston Fontenex, Alan Imansky, wants to know, Ryan, what's your what's your funniest broadcasting moment? And I have a special guest coming on after you answer that question.
Okay, well, so I'm friendly with Alan. He's such a good dude. He's a beauty. Cancer survivor. Thumbs up for my guy, Alan. I was so happy. Kick cancer's ass. I love it. Montreal fan, although I don't have a problem with that. I know why he's asking this question. Alan and I met many years ago. Geez, this got to be 10, 11 years ago. We worked I want to say it was the 2015, so maybe not quite 10 years ago. It was the 2014 or 15 under 17 women's national championship for Hockey Canada. So all the best female players from across the provinces were there. It was an incredible event. It was in Huntsville. Unbelievable event. Hockey Canada took such great care of us. And Alan, who I met there, he was my roommate. He and I were broadcast partners, and we had a guy there with us, Kyle Ryan, who's also such a beauty. He's a Lions fan too. God bless you, Kyle. They might be good this year. We were interviewing somebody. I can't even remember who it was. We were interviewing somebody from the, I believe, 2010 Canadian women's Olympic team. I want to say it was Gina Kingsbury. And she was fantastic. I think she was one of the team officials with Team Quebec, I want to say. We were interviewing her on the feed. She finishes up and she goes to kind of shake all our crew's hand. And Kyle, who was running our cameras, I believe, at the event, was fist deep in a bag of Doritos. And he'd been working on this bag of Doritos for a while. And, you know, I'm sure like many of your viewers, Chris, myself, yourself, when you eat Doritos and you spend some time in there, you get the you get the dust. He reached his hand out to shake an Olympic champion's hand coated in orange nacho cheese Dorito dust. And Sheena Kingsbury just kind of looked at him and gave him a little elbow bump, like before that was a cool thing to do when COVID happened. She just kind of, I'll never forget the look on her face. And God bless, she just was like, I don't think so this time, bud. Oh my God, we killed Kyle about that for the entire, it was unbelievably funny. Such a beauty. I hope he's doing well. I haven't seen him in a while.
Yeah, he came on my show. He talked for over an hour, and I'm going to have him back on again. And one thing, too, Ryan, about this league, everybody in this league, I don't just want to cover the Storm. I want to cover the Ontario Hockey League, and I've been lucky to get a lot of great guests on from this league. And the OHL kind of reminds me of the CFL and the National Lacrosse League with terms of media and people getting into this industry as well. Everybody's just been real great.
I agree. I've made so many friends just in the short time that I've been part of the league, in an official capacity. I had filled in with our crew in Guelph and, been up to Owen Sound and Kitchener, Barrie once. Like I bounced around doing fill-in work until I got a full-time opportunity with the Storm, which I'm very appreciative of, and our Rogers crew. And in that short time, you see so many broadcasters, particularly the radio guys that come in on the road, and, you just end up having unbelievable conversations with all these people, rink rats like ourselves that have just been around the game, and this guy knows this guy, and a friend you worked with is buddies with this guy.
Small world. It's a small world.
Oh my God, it's the smallest world. And it's a really, I was intimidated walking in there as a young guy. Like it's a very welcoming place, and the broadcasting fraternity in this league is second to none.
Especially a couple of guys from London, Mike Stubbs and Jim Van Horn. They've been one of my biggest supporters. Everybody has, but they've been really great to talk to. And what I was going to say, I'm going to bring on our special guest, and this guest does a really good job with Roger TV broadcasts, and they kind of gave me a hand when I started out as well. So I'm going to bring on our special guest for you, and I think you know who she is.
Oh, Amber. My goodness.
Welcome aboard. Thank you for joining us.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
What a treat. What a treat.
Drury, I cannot wait to be back in the building with you. I'm not going to lie. I've missed you so much.
I miss you too, pal. Oh, man. What a surprise. I did not know this is happening. Chris, you're pretty good at keeping secrets there, bud.
And I was trying to get another special guest on, but unfortunately, his schedule didn't work out tonight. I was trying to surprise you with Steve Fitzsimmons, but unfortunately, it just didn't work out without. But I did get you the next best thing, the #1 camera person with Storm Broadcasts.
100%. You know what? If Fitzy had popped up on this screen with us, I think we both would have needed a box of tissues. I would have been emotional, man. Oh my goodness, what a gem that guy is.
But I think
my heart probably would have stopped working.
For good reason. Fitzy, legend, absolute legend.
And I was going to say, Amber, when is the, do you know what the first broadcast is for Rogers TV? I should go on cap, but I imagine they're going to start doing games at the end of August.
I haven't checked yet, to be completely honest with you. Last time I was in there, they had all the Rangers stuff up. I haven't seen Guelph stuff yet.
Okay. And have you been doing any, you did some wrestling stuff
a
couple weeks ago. I saw you at Pro Wrestling 365. How did that go?
I mean, I wasn't on a shoulder cam, which was nice because I had gone to a hardcore show the night before. So, like, I was fine until I got there. Then it was just like, back and shoulders, just like, nah.
All right. I'm going to ask you guys this question, both of you. I'm going to since Amber just came on, I'm going to ask you this question. What are your thoughts on Ben McFarland, Cooper Walker, and Jake Murray's time in Guelph? Obviously moving on as overagers now out of the league. And who do you think will fill their leadership and experience going into this season?
I'll answer the first part first because I think Drury and I have the same answer. That leadership is coming from Bonesy. I mean, that dude, I don't think it is possible for him to have a bad day.
I agree. Yeah, I'm right there with you. Yeah, I mean, great minds think alike. I just think that Braden Bowman, who we affectionately refer to as Bonesy and or the Bone Collector, I really feel like he could have an inline on being the captain of the Storm this year.
That's what I'm
and
thinking.
I don't think anybody would complain. And it's not because of the numbers he puts up. It's because of the way he puts those numbers up. That kid is an absolute grinder. And like you said, Ember, one of the most positive kids. Like, he's a guy that clearly spurs the bench and brings a lot of energy. Like, you could feel it. Like, he missed 13 games last year with a lower body injury and scored 34 goals. This kid could score 50. He's good enough to score 50. He's got the shot. If he's healthy, I'm dead serious. He could be a 50-goal scorer playing with the players that he gets to play with. Great guy that sets up for that one-timer on the power play. But it's all those little things he does. He sticks his nose in everybody else's business, isn't afraid to grind it up and get the greasy one. And the effort level that he puts out, the fact that you can trust that guy to go out there and kill a penalty just as effectively as he can make a team pay for taking a penalty, the hard hits, the way he lays his body on the line, block shots, that dude does everything for the Guelph Storm. He's a Swiss Army knife, and I agree. I feel like he could really, really fill a huge leadership void left by those guys that are departing, and we love those guys. Ben McFarland, such a gritty guy. Dude, for a dude that's 5'0" to be throwing his body around like that. That dude was a hammer out there. A small hammer, but a hammer nonetheless. He was never afraid to knock guys around. Had a great shot. I wish he shot the puck more.
I've been a Ben McFarland fan since day one of him being in this organization.
How could you not be? How could you not be? It's easy to root for a kid like that. And same thing for Cooper Walker, a guy that just went out there and did all of the messy stuff that doesn't show up on score sheets very often and put out maximum effort. I thought he was a great captain that, much like we talked about earlier, Chris, when Chad Wiseman, weathering his first year as a head coach, Cooper Walker had to weather a lot of storm as well, being the guy with the C on for a team that was really going through it, and he helped pull them out of it. And when Jake Murray came over, he just really stabilized that back end and allowed some of those younger guys on the D court. Chad would pair him with anybody who was either struggling or having a tough night. Who'd you see them go over the boards with typically? It was Jake. And his skating ability and his passing got them out of a lot of tough spots. And I really thought he was arguably one of their best players in that playoff loss to Sarnia.
I wanted to ask you guys both this question. Now, when the Storm select a captain, is it the players who vote on it, or is it the coaches, or is it George Burnett have the final say on that?
I have no idea.
I don't know. I know that Steve has told me before that typically in the past it would be a player vote, but that's over the course of many different general managers, coaching groups. Who knows how Chad will go about this, how George and Chad will go about this, what they decide to do. Do they turn it to the players? I guess if not knowing what for sure the answer is, if it were me, based on what that team ended up doing last year and really coming together to salvage what was a tough first half and make that run that they did down the stretch, I think I would turn it to the players and say, hey, this is largely the same group coming back. Who do you guys feel is that go-to guy? And again, I really would not be shocked if we see a C stitched on that number 15 jersey on opening night.
Personally, I see, in my head, you have Bonesy as captain, you have Allen as your A, and probably the new overager they just brought in, because I'm going to pay homage to Steve Dangle. George Burnett loves his guys, and his guys are overagers that he trades for.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I agree. I wouldn't be surprised if Hislop got a letter. And if it's not Allen, Bushinger or Patra are going to be candidates as well. Bushinger more so for how calm he is out there. Michael Bushinger never looks rattled by anything.
I've seen him get rattled a lot. He lets his emotions get the best of him, and he takes stupid penalties. I'm going to be frank. I love him. He needs to control his emotions.
Yeah, sometimes he can get a little ornery out there, but I like that intensity from a defenseman. But I think that a majority of the time he's out there putting fires out in their own zone a lot more than he's causing them. Whereas Cam had a tough year last year.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I still feel like in the second half, which is the theme of the team last year, they were a second half team, let's be honest. In that second half, he really took strides in terms of his own zone. Everybody knew what he could do with the puck on his stick. He was rookie of the year for a reason. The offensive abilities are there. He tried to lean a little too heavily on that. It was his draft year, and I really feel like he was a kid that had that mentality of, I gotta be on the highlight reel every night, and it hurt him a lot.
I was reading a scouting report where it said, like, he has those skills, but he's trying to do too much, which I'm like, God, that sounds like so many Storm defensemen I can think of.
Totally. But that said, I really feel like he did not deserve to fall into the 5th round of the NHL draft. I don't
think you're complaining.
I'm not complaining. I'm not complaining. Caps fan here. I'm happy to welcome him to DC, but for him to fall to the 5th round after being rated a first, that was outrageous.
Yeah, I was so shocked. I thought low 3rd at the lowest.
One thing I wanted to talk to you guys about, the Storm obviously were an improved hockey club in the second half of the season, and they gave the Sting a tough 6-game series, nearly pushed it to a 7-game series. But one thing about the Storm last year, 254 goals scored, not bad, not great, but they gave up 280. That's minus 26. For me, the Storm, if they want to be a top 3 or top 4 team in the Western Conference, they need to flip those numbers around.
Yeah. Well, and I think that was the thinking behind getting Hislop in there, because they already have a lot of really skilled puck movers from the back end. They need a couple guys to be sledgehammers back there, and that's what he'll do. And I think that ultimately they're going to look back on last year and look at the very obvious stats that stick out, like that one, and their penalty killing percentage, and go, okay, we know we can light the lamp with the best teams in this league. Like, they had no trouble scoring goals, but they have to make sure that when they get up in a game, or when they get down 1 or 2-0, that they're able to quickly stem the bleeding and get themselves back in control. They were chasing games a lot last year. And if you want to be an elite team and you want to be one of those go-to teams that have home ice in that first round, if not beyond, you got to make sure that you can knuckle down and deal with adversity and not take a bunch of penalties. They took way too many penalties last year, and if they can reel that in and be a little more disciplined and kind of let the game come to them instead of trying to chase it all the time, those numbers will improve.
Also, goaltending was a huge thing last year. Like, I liked Oster. He quickly fell out of favor. The defense to start the year was in shambles. They got that together. They found Gillespie, which has been a godsend, but there was a lot of stuff to end last year that I really liked that I'm looking forward to. My question is, who's that number 1 goalie? To me right now, it's Gillespie.
Okay, I'm just asking you guys because I have no idea, and that's why I brought this question up. Is who do you guys think has the who's going to be the number 1 guy, or are they going to just see how it goes during training camp and preseason?
They're probably going to tandem because the Storm do that. Which, I mean, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So,
yeah, it'll be interesting because, like I said, with the Hislop acquisition, they're going to have some decisions to make in terms of overagers. Lever is still a member of the Guelph Storm. He very could well still be a member of the Guelph Storm on opening night, because with Gillespie, they have an option where they could send him back down to junior. Now, if you do that, though, you risk potentially making him unhappy, and or another team trying to go out and acquire him, because now you bring Slavic in the import draft, and he and Ulrichsen have both signed. They are both going to be members of the Guelph Storm on opening night. So now you've got 3 goalies technically on your roster. One who you had to sign to a card last year because he reached his 10-game limit, going up and down from the Air Centennials. You bring Lever in to try and stabilize things, and he did in that Oster trade. Now you've got the Slovakian coming in. So there are some real decisions to be made here for George Burnett. Like, you got 3 pretty talented kids there of varying ages. Slavic's 18. Gillespie just turned 17, I believe. He'll turn 18 during the season and looks to have a ton of potential. I feel like Lever earned the right to have first crack at that number 1 job, but then you've got Slavic coming in. You didn't sign him for no reason. It's going to be an interesting next month and a bit here.
If a move does get made, I kind of see them doing what they did last season, which was the preseason ends, and in that week and a half between preseason and regular season, George is going to go out and make some moves if, it's decided that one needs to be made.
Absolutely, and it's going to be definitely they gotta resolve this. Obviously, in training camp and preseason hockey, and because it does start with the goaltending, and we'll see what happens there. And the next question I wanted to ask you guys is, I'm going to get both of your opinions on this. What do you see for predictions on the Western Conference this year and the Eastern Conference heading into the 23-24 OHL season?
Before we start this, I'd like to point out I called the Peterborough Petes. Just saying.
You did.
Knights,
yeah.
But the
you had
Knights
a good feeling.
But the Knights had injuries, and Brett Brashear was hurt in that series.
And if and buts for candies and nuts, we'd all have a very Merry Christmas. But that's not what happened, now, was it?
Well, yeah. You know what? Go ahead, Brian.
Well, I mean, I'm not going to take anything away from that Peterborough team that, had a lot of adversity on their way there. And hey, you got to beat what's in front of you. And, if the other team's not healthy, woe is them. Like, we're going out there, we want to win this game. So, but speaking of London, there are obviously going to be some teams that are going to be taking a bit of a step back this year, because that trade deadline and the month, even with some of the moves made leading into it, was one of the wildest trade seasons I've seen in a long time, let alone my brief time being a broadcaster in the league. That was insanity what was going on. So you would obviously expect, and I'm not saying huge steps back, but certainly steps back from being favorites in the conference. I think it's safe to say Sarnia will take a step back, in my opinion. They're losing a lot of really quality players. You're going to see Windsor take a step back, and rightly so. London's an interesting one, though, because yes, Brett Brochu is aging out of this league, but there's a team that was really young and went all the way to the finals and didn't have a top 20 scorer in the league. And that's because they had so many rookies on the team. They had, I believe, 10 rookies who were in the top 35 in rookie scoring last year. They were unbelievable, led by Easton Cowan and Radek Bonk's son. They have a really, really good team coming back from a finals run where they're going to have a bit of a bee in their bonnet, if you will, after that loss. They know what losing's like. Now they're going to come back another year older and still be very good. So London will still be in the mix. And man, I don't want to be a homer here. I really do feel like this Guelph Storm team, if they play up to their potential, which we saw them flash in that second half, and if the goaltending is more stabilized, and maybe having these 3 guys there for competition's a good thing. Competition's not a bad thing. If everything goes according to plan, based on what we saw them do last year in the second half, I really feel like the Storm have a chance at challenging for one of the top 3 seeds. They are that talented. Can they put it all together right from the word go and not chase teams up the standings all season?
Amber, go ahead.
I have the same thing about Guelph. Like, everyone basically knows I'm a homer first, a broadcaster second. I do try to keep it in, but that's the giant question mark, right? Is, can the Storm start on time? Which happens a lot to teams I cheer for. Cries in Leafs fandom. But
I gotta ask you about the Leafs. I'm not a Leaf fan, but getting to know the MLSE guys through the Argonauts, I might cheer for the Leafs a little bit this year because they got a former Guelph Storm alumni and a former Red Wing on the team, number 59, Tyler Bertuzzi. What are your thoughts on him coming to Toronto?
I have mixed feelings about Bertuzzi personally. I'm going to put that to the side. I loved Bert was he was in Guelph. He's a Bertuzzi. Bertuzzis are gods here. And Tyler played like a Bertuzzi, which, if he can do that in Toronto, I'm going to be very, very happy and hope they get some playoff success, or I just might crawl into a hole and die.
Yeah, I don't know. And I like the move for the Leafs, but also quickly, just in terms of the conferences next year, obviously in the West, we got to look out for Saginaw.
Yeah,
Saginaw
is one of
surprised.
mine.
Okay.
They surprised a lot of people with how good they, not the talent there. We all knew they were going to load up and have Mr. Misa, and boy, that Zach Pare kid breaking records for 16-year-old defensemen scoring goals. Unbelievable. And they're hosting the Memorial Cup, and our old friend Valentin Zhugin shifting down there after getting released by virtue of the import draft. They're going to be a force to be reckoned with. And when you look at last year's playoffs too, like you look out east, North Bay's still going to be pretty good. I think Barrie is poised to take a big step forward. I actually think Barrie could be the best team in the East. Like, they have a lot of weapons there and a pretty good young goaltender. Hamilton, which, coming off a championship year, they surprised a lot of people with how competitive they were. I think they'll take a step forward. And, it's impressive that they finished 5th, like coming off a championship where they had to lose a bunch of guys. They trade Logan Thompson to the 67s and still finished 5th. Hamilton, the Brantford Bulldogs are going to entertain the fans in Brantford right away. And I think a team, that last year had to sell off from the year prior and kind of enter a retool. Don't ever count out Oshawa, man. Oshawa, they always seem to find a way to quickly get competitive again. I think Oshawa has a chance to be a home seed because they've got a lot of good young players there.
I got to ask both of you guys this. I was alive and around when Brantford had the team, the Brantford Alexanders from 78 to 84. Why do you think it's different now? And can this team stay long-term in Brantford? And just thoughts on both of you guys.
Well, I'm not familiar with what the situation was back in the 80s when they moved. Talking about this current Bulldogs team, look, they've got good leadership. They have people there that know how to build a hockey club that is going to bring fans in. They seem to be saying all the right things in terms of investment in the arena, making it an OHL rink. The whole thing with, the arena in Hamilton, that entire saga, it's pissed off a lot of people. Like, I'm friends with a lot of people down there that work for the paper and work in different media capacities down there. And there's people that are not very happy with this whole fiasco with the arena. It's really going to depend on if ownership feels that Brantford remains their best option when these arena upgrades in Hamilton are completed. Do they want to go back and figure out a new agreement with the people that own that rink? Because I believe Live Nation owns the rink. I could be wrong there, but like it's a significant corporation that the Bulldogs would have to try and find a new agreement with in terms of leasing it and being a patronage, a tenant there, if you will. But if things go well in Brantford and people come out and support the team, they sold out of season tickets almost immediately, which is always a good sign. If the ownership group there feels that that's their best option and they can continue to make money there, they will stay. If attendance wanes and we see what we see quite typically in, and I'm not trying to bag on them or anything, but if we see what we see in Mississauga a lot of times in Brantford after a year or two, then they probably won't be staying. But they seem to be saying and putting forward all the right and all the good ideas to try and make this a success. Let's see how it goes.
Ember,
I could see a world where Hamilton stays in Brantford. They're the full-time Brantford Bulldogs. And then we have the real conversation of what's going to give in Mississauga. I could very much see at the end of this where Mississauga moves to Hamilton.
in
Because
3 years from now.
I went to an outdoor game in Hamilton, Bulldogs v. Jennies. I had a ton of fun. It's a giant stadium. And for the most part, it was 60, 70% full. So the people in Hamilton love their junior hockey. And to see them lose a team, like, I feel for you. I do. I pray that never happens with me. But it's heartbreaking losing a team that you love so dearly.
I saw that with the Guelph Platers when they moved to Owen Sound in 1989. I was really upset as a 17-year-old kid because I spent my Friday nights and Sunday afternoons at the old Guelph Memorial Gardens to see the team move to Owen Sound. But thankfully, it worked out well for the Owen Sound people, worked out well for the Guelph Storm. And ideally, Amber, I would like to see in 2026 a full-time team in Brantford with a new arena and a team back in Hamilton with a new renovated arena. Because I just don't think, in my opinion, in my lifetime, Toronto is an OHL market, in my opinion.
I have said this for years. My brain, you guys both know, you deal with me. My brain works differently from many other people. Its frequency is on a whole new level. In my mind, your big metropolitan areas don't get junior teams. Those are your NHL teams, your major leagues. Your smaller cities like a Guelph, an Owen Sound,
Kitchener,
Kitchener, London, those guys get your OHL teams. Then your even smaller towns like Elmira get your junior B teams. At least in my head, that's how it should work.
Well, yeah, because the OHL went to Detroit. Remember the Detroit Junior Red Wings, and it didn't work. And they used the Red Wing name, and then they went to Plymouth for 20 years. They were successful in Plymouth, and now I think they've got a good market in Flint. Hopefully, Flint's ownership stays the same, and they can make it work. But you're right, Amber. It does not work in big professional sports league cities, in my opinion, for the OHL.
Especially because, like, Steve Dangle has talked about this before in respect to the Argos, where it's just like, there's so much to do. Why would I go to this when I can go to Leafs? I can go to Raptors. I can go to Marlies. Why would I go all the way out to Saga to watch the Steelheads?
Yeah.
As for the Argos, they're the only consistent team in Toronto, and that's another podcast for another day, because I do media work for the team, and I really do think they are trying to get the fan base back, but it is very hard, especially in that Toronto market. And Amber, you just mentioned it. You got the Leafs, you got the Blue Jays, the Raptors, the FC. There's so much going on there. So, but that's another podcast show for another day.
I've done media work for the Argos too, and I'm a Ticats fan, so.
What media work did you do for the Argos? What did you do for at the University of Guelph, the camera work? I forgot about that. Yeah, that was June 1st. I forgot
Trust
about
me, that's the highlight of my career, so I'm never forgetting that.
Well, you got to come down to a game at BMO Field. Same with you, Ryan. Even if you're a huge NFL fan, it's a good product. It's a beautiful stadium, and it's affordable entertainment. And I always take the GO train down there, and it's stress-free. It's just first class organization, and I can't say enough about the Toronto Argonauts.
Yeah, they are a great organization and they treat their people really well. And I mean, yeah, Mike Hogan's been bugging Clarky and I to get down there. We've had him on our show a couple times. He's like, "Come on, guys, like let's get over here." I'm like, "Yeah, we really should get over there and check it." I haven't been to an Argos game in 10 years. But,
okay, well, if you want to go
should
to
get down there,
let me know, because I've got connections and I love it down there and stuff like that. But Mike Hogan is also a Philadelphia Eagles fan, and I gotta say this while we're on the air: fly, Eagles, fly.
Yeah, good for you. We'll see how high they fly this year. It'll be interesting.
Definitely. All right, we're going to wrap this show up with a couple of Blue Jay questions and maybe an Oakland A question. But I wanted to get you guys' thoughts on Jose Bautista being introduced into the Jays level of excellence. And who would you like to see the next great Jay to be on the level of excellence? And one thing I wanted to ask you specifically too, Ryan, why hasn't Jerry Howarth been put on the level of excellence for his 36 years and 4,000 games alongside Tom Cheek, the late Tom Cheek?
Well, that's a great question that you would have to pose to. I don't even know who's in charge of this, like team brass, Roger, like who he absolutely should be. He will be up there. Like they got to get him up there. Like Jerry Howard deserves, he's a legend. Like he deserves to be on the level of excellence with his good friend, Tom Cheek. And I think he will be. And that's probably in the works, to be honest with you. I have a friend who works in media relations for the Jays. I should honestly reach out to him and be like, "Hey, is this already being talked about?" Because it should be. As far as Joey Bats going up there, it makes complete sense. He's a legend and is part of the greatest moments that this franchise has ever been associated with outside of the back-to-back World Series. Like when you think about all those,
my age wasn't alive for.
Yes, I was literally an infant when they won those back-to-back World Series.
I feel old now. I was 20. I think I was 21. So compared to you guys, I'm a senior.
So you were able to enjoy seeing them do the ultimate thing, right? And that's why Jose's up there, because he for people like Ember and I, like he was the catalyst alongside David Price and Josh Donaldson and Troy Tulowitzki, and run down the list, Edwin Encarnacion, Fly the Parrot forever. They were the catalyst of our generation, seeing them come oh so close twice, where they didn't quite pull it off. But in terms of him going up there, you have to just admit it makes perfect sense. What an interesting story, a guy that really bounced around Kansas City, Tampa, he bounced all over the league, ends up in Pittsburgh. Toronto acquire him. He, really because of a dearth of injuries, they shove him out in right field because they're like, well, like who else do we have? We don't want to option some guys. Alex Rios leaves. I believe he got traded, and they were like, well, we don't want to call anybody up and waste an option. So I guess we'll throw this Bautista guy out there. He looks athletic. Let's see what happens. And it's funny you bring him up, because I was listening to Alex Anthopoulos on Overdrive the other day, and he was talking about signing Bautista to that $65 million deal, which ended up being one of the most team-friendly deals in what sports history, certainly Toronto history, after he hit those 54 bombs. Remember the year prior, he really did not come alive at the plate, and they considered trading him at the trade deadline that year. That's Anthopoulos' words, not mine. And they end up keeping him because of that dearth of injuries and Rios going. And in September, he pops off for 9 homers, and they thought, oh, hold on just a second here. Maybe we should keep this guy around. Well, the following year in 2010, doesn't he go off for a franchise record 54 dingers and became one of the most feared power hitters in the league for 5 or 6 years? It absolutely makes sense. He deserves to be up there. The bat flip moment alone, next to Touch 'Em All, Joe, that's the most iconic Blue Jays moment. It's everyone, Ember and I, like for our generation of Jays fans, we're going to remember where we were when that happened for the rest of our lives. I had friends who were lucky enough to be at the game. I wish I had been. When he clobbered that pitch, that was an iconic moment, and it's a shame it didn't end in a World Series, but he deserves to be on the level of excellence. As far as guys going up there in the future, you could make a real argument for Josh Donaldson because he was an MVP in 2015, runner up in 16, where the Jays, they just, every time they trade for an Oakland A, it really works out for them, doesn't it? Matt Chapman's in there now. Like, I think Donaldson would give
Ricky Henderson in 93.
Well, Ricky will tell you, Ricky's the greatest thing that ever happened to any franchise. But Donaldson and you know what? Encarnacion would probably be an interesting conversation to have too. Like that Edwin Bautista combo, was there anything scarier than that? You know, hitting 3-4 for years, 2-3 years in Major League Baseball to go Tulo, Donaldson, Bautista, Encarnacion. Get real.
The only thing with Donaldson, one thing about Donaldson is he had some great years there, but his lengths of service there. If he had played longer in Toronto and performed at a high level,
that'll be the argument.
Yeah.
That'll be the argument.
Thoughts on this, Amber?
When I was watching Jose Bautista's ceremony, I was crying, like to the point of sobbing. You know, every baseball fan has, you know, that time period where, you know, for me, Jose Bautista will always be my right fielder, because when I was really starting to actually watch baseball on more than just a casual level, always had Joey Bats, and like from what I heard, couldn't have happened to a nicer guy. Was a dude who always played with his heart on his sleeve, which was kind of like a thing under Gibby. Gibby, you know, heart on his sleeve at all times. Edwin could get fired up. Joey Bats, like, took a punch to the face from Rougned Odor and laughed about it in the media, going like he should have punched harder if he wanted to knock me out. I can't remember the exact quote, but that was the gist. And like, I can wax poetic for hours about Jose Bautista. Were there times where I was frustrated? Yes, absolutely. But Joey Bats absolutely deserves it. Would I be crazy enough to realistically say he should be in the Baseball Hall of Fame? Maybe. But I'm a homer. I'm never going to deny that I like my teams.
Now, there's one guy, I would say Jose Bautista is probably the second best right fielder in Blue Jays history, or maybe third. I would say Jesse Barfield. Jesse Barfield was a great defensive player. Also, he was a great home run hitter, and he had the best arm I've ever seen. Jesse Barfield could throw you out from 500 feet away. Jose Bautista is a close second, but I would like to see Barfield up there, but I don't think
I
that'll
agree.
happen.
You know what? Who knows? Recently inducted into the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame.
Yeah, and I got to interview him. Yes.
Like there's the one thing though that's in his favor, I'll say quickly. Baseball, more than almost any other sport, does really favor defensive metrics and people who are excellent defenders. You can run down a pretty long list of guys who are not the most prolific hitters or have big power numbers, but were 10-time Great Glove winners or Platinum Glove winners, Gold Glovers that get in the Hall of Fame. Scott Rowland just went in. Now, Scott Rowland had a couple years where he had some real nice pop to his bat, but he was never really regarded as like a masher. But what a great defender. Barfield was a fan favorite too. Who knows? I wouldn't protest if he went up.
No, and for me, the one person I would put in is I hope I get his name right, BJ Ryan, longtime closer.
Yeah.
When the teams were terrible, and I'm like, you got to put him in for the fact that he stuck around when the team was absolute, a word I can't say on this program.
I don't think he has a chance getting in there, but this is another podcast show. Who should be in the Jays level of excellence, and what?
Yeah,
this is a whole topic. We could talk about this for 2 or 3 hours. Amber, do you have any other thoughts before we wrap this up?
For me, going back to the OHL, the Ottawa 67s, I don't know how they're going to do this year, to be honest, but man, I feel for 67's fans because in recent memory, always the bridesmaid, never the bride.
I know, eh? And when you look at, we talked earlier, Ember, about teams that really went all in.
Yep.
Good God. In first place, they went all in. Like, holy cow. To go out there and get Logan Thompson, the prior year's playoff MVP, one of the best playoff performances we've seen in recent memory. Go get him. Go get Minchikov, who tied for the league lead in goals by defenseman with that fella from London, whose name I don't really need to mention. And to come up short in the second, man, oh man. And you feel for Dave Cameron a little bit too, because finally he got over that gold medal hump on the national stage. But that same narrative you just brought up, Ember, was attached to Dave for ages. So I agree. I still think the 67s will be pretty good. Pinelli's little brother there, who is starting to kind of shake that moniker off. He's becoming a great player in his own right, and rightfully so, got drafted this year. They still got some pieces there that can move the needle. I agree, though, that I don't really know what to make of them, though, because they were already so good. Stonehouse and all those guys, like, they could either be another really good team that challenges for home ice and is top four, or they could fall backwards. And I certainly don't see a world where they miss the playoffs. That'd blow my mind. I really don't think that that's in the cards, but they are a coin flip team to me. I don't have a good read on them. If you were, I guess, gun to my head, I think that they can finish 4th or 5th, but we'll see.
The last time they were poised and in first place, it ended in the background behind me.
Yes, it did. Oh, God.
That's 4 years ago. That's hard to believe.
Yeah.
Where's the 4 years
kids?
Yeah.
Comeback kids.
I still like Steve's call of, the clock hit 0. Steve's call of the team of destiny lives in here rent-free and will for the rest of time.
It would have been nice. It would have been nice to see them win a Memorial Cup. The 14 team, the 98 team should have won. They lost in overtime. The 14 team, they were dominant. To me, the 98, the 14, and the 19 teams are my 3 favorite teams in the Storm's 31-year history.
Yeah, well, how can they not be with what they achieved? And they're gonna get one. Like they'll get one. Guelph's too good of an organization. They're too passionate of a town. They're gonna get one. They're gonna get one someday. I hope I'm there for it.
Don't we all?
Definitely.
14 was my first year with Rogers. So I still remember my first game being the last regular season game of the season. And this is when Sarnia sucked up and down the ice. We beat them 13-1 or 13-2. I can't remember which one it was, but it was just an absolute slaughter to the point where the Sarnia goalie made a save and he was getting Bronx cheers.
Yeah, that 14 team was ragdolling people for fun. They were just so good.
I'm going to put you guys on the spot. As of right now, who do you see coming out of the West and who do you see coming out of the East? I know it's only August 14th, but just figure we'll do little predictions now.
Jeez. Look, I don't want to get people overexcited, but I've said this on other shows, and I just got to stick with my guns here. If one of these goaltenders takes over and really grabs this team, I just don't see how the Storm could not potentially be that team. London, like I said, having just been in the final, I know, but look how young that team is. They will still be in the mix here. Owen Sound is going to be good. Dude, hey, that Carter George kid. Oh,
I don't think Barlow's going to be back. I think
I've heard people say something similar. I think his shot alone is NHL ready. And the way he plays the game, he plays the right way. Yeah. And that would really hurt Owen Sound. However, if he is back, that's a big deal for them. They could be good. But with this Storm team, again, I don't know if I'm just trying to talk myself out of being excited, but I'm really excited about what this roster could do. I think that Braden Bowman, if he's healthy, could score 40, maybe 50, be their first 50-goal scorer since Isaac Ratcliffe on that 19 team. Max Nemestikov, if he's even half of what he was as a Guelph Storm player last year, you've got a 30-goal scorer there. That kid absolutely went off. I've said this to a few different people. I'll say it here. If there's a betting site that you can get this on, put money down. Matt Patre will lead the league in scoring. Matt Patre is going to have 120 points this year. If he hadn't had those 2 suspensions last year, both slew footing infractions,
which I have opinions on that.
Well, don't we all? Having said that, if he doesn't miss those, 3 or 4 games, he breaks the O-Dogs franchise record for assists. Jeff O'Neill's 81 assists in a season. It's getting broken this year. This kid piles up points. I think he's the best playmaker in the league. And I think that he's going to go off this year and potentially lead this Storm team to something really, really special. Man, they're deep and they got a lot of talented goal scorers. In the East, man, like I said, I really think Barrie is going to take a big step forward this year. I think Ottawa will ultimately still be really good. North Bay is still going to be involved here. Man, the East is really hard to call. But I think that there's a good chance that we could see the Barrie Colts there. I really like that team.
Amber, what's your thoughts?
The West is obviously the conference I know best. My team is in it. I cover the team, so I see a lot of these teams. I learned to hate a lot of these teams quite quickly. But to me, the big question, I can see Guelph doing it. My big question, which was one of the questions on the 5-for-5 thing that the OHL does during the offseason, defense. What's our back end going to look like? Because we have, for the most part, guys who are unproven. One being Zachary Sandu. I love him. I've loved him since I first saw him in a Storm uniform. But he still needs to take that step up. Cam Allen, I think, will have a bounce back year, and it'll make the scouts who took him look like absolute geniuses. Bushy, what stirred the drink last year, but I also, Saginaw has a really, really good team, and I'd be delusional if I didn't say I don't think they're going to be good, because they are. The East, on the other hand, I have, like, as Ryan said, North Bay. I just want North Bay to finally win something. Ottawa, I kind of want to see win. Just like, get them one, please, for their fans' sake. They deserve one.
Or even Sudbury's. Sudbury's been in the league 50 years and they haven't won anything. So Sudbury,
we haven't talked about them.
Yeah,
and they're another one of those teams that's a complete wild card to me. Like, can Musty raise the game of some of his teammates like he did last year to another level? And can some of those guys grow a little more into their own game? Goaltending, a question there, really, since Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen left. They're a complete wild card to me too. And I don't, Mark, our broadcast partner, Mark Pare, he would have a better read on it than us doing some radio work for them last year. It might be worth asking him what he thinks of Sudbury's chances this year, because, you can clearly see quite a bit of talent up and down that lineup, but man, you want to talk about inconsistent. That's their story last year. If they can figure any of that out and become a more solid team from the start of the game and play a full 60, that old cliche, way more often than they did last year. Because last year I really felt like they relied a lot on Musty to pull them out of sticky situations. If they don't need to rely on him so much to drive their offense and momentum, they could be a surprising team too.
And my thing always comes back to, I'm a former football player, and I played majority defensive line. So it won't surprise you that I hold the belief of defense wins championships across all sports. except for maybe basketball, you can outscore yourself a lot of the time. But to me, you have to have good goaltending and not terrible defense in this league.
Agreed.
If you even want to stand a chance
All right, guys,
of making the playoffs.
Yep.
And my pick, you guys might disagree with me, but I'm going to go with Saginaw versus Barrie as of now.
A sound pick. I completely agree that's highly likely in my opinion.
We'll have to get together before the OHL playoffs start, and we'll have to go and rewind back to this episode on August 14th, 2023. But going to wrap this up, Ryan. Where can my audience find you on social media and your radio station? And the same for you, Amber, as well, as we wrap this up.
I'm pretty simple to find. It's right there on screen at CKNX_Drury. That's me on Twitter. I'm on Instagram, rdrury08. I don't really post anything on there. I go to concerts sometimes. I'm working on new music with my band Clarence Street. We've got a new EP coming out. I'm literally going to work on it tomorrow. You can check us out on social media. We're not hard to find on there. I do news anchoring, sports and weather on CKNX Radio in Wingham. You can follow my show Instigating with Clarkie and Drury with myself and longtime Leafs TV producer Chris Clark. We're all over social media as well at Instigating Pod. That's about it.
And how often do you do your podcast shows?
We do a weekly show. Instigating's once a week. And I will tell your viewers, and Ember, you might be excited about this. You're probably going to have to just be on it. In partnership with our Guelph Storm, I am launching a new podcast with the team this year. It's going to be called Eye of the Storm Podcast with Ryan Drury. And I'm going to be interviewing team executives, coaches, players, of course. And, the occasional super fan like Ember. I'm going to have all kinds of different people on the show. So that will be launching in September, the week before the regular season starts.
Long overdue, because I suggested it a couple years ago. And I think now they realize that podcasting, live streaming is the future of broadcasting.
Totally.
Amber, where can my audience follow you on social media if they like to follow you? Find you.
I have a TikTok. I don't ever post. So if you want to see what, terrible things I like, you could, I have an Instagram. I have a Twitter. It's all the same, @girlwiththetopat. I have my background on, but right above my head is my actual top hat. Yes, I do actually own one. It's not just a moniker. Twitter, I don't really use other than reposting like Leaf stuff, hockey stuff in general. Instagram, I'll post every once in a while. If I do anything exciting, I'll be posting about my first day back at Griff Vision. Looking forward to that. The concert I went to like 3 weeks ago. I don't take wrestling stuff because I feel that's kind of cliche, to be completely honest. I'm there to work and not fangirl over the wrestlers.
All right. Well, hey, I want to say thank you, Ryan and Amber, for coming on my 310th show today. And it will air on WQEE 99.1 FM in Metro Atlanta, the home of Southern Talk in sports, and a little plug for my radio station. But I will definitely send you guys a copy of the video and the audio of our episode, and look forward to seeing Ryan in September at the Sleeman Center. And Amber, hopefully we'll see you in a couple weeks at the Guelph Griffins home opener on Saturday, August 26th.
Oh, trust me, I'm there, and then I'm determining whether or not to go to Ribfest afterwards.
That's a must.
I will be going to the CNE, so I think I'll pass on Ribfest this year. So, but again, thank you, Ryan, for coming on CDP Sports Talk, and hopefully we'll have you guys back on again just before the OHL playoffs start this year.
Sounds good, my friend. Always a pleasure.
All right. Well, have a great evening, guys, and thanks for coming on. All right, guys. Hope you enjoyed season 6, episode 35 of Live with CDP Sports Talk. My 310th episode tonight as well. And the OHL season will be starting up soon. Training camp, I believe, opens up in a couple weeks for all of the teams across the league. And I believe by the end of August, they do their first preseason game as well. And the Guelph Storm are also going to be doing a fan fest, I believe, on Friday, September 29th. From 4 to 7 p.m. Downtown by the Sleeman Center against, I believe their home opener is against the Owen Sound Attack as well. But you guys can check out their website at chl.ca/OHL hyphen storm, or just go to guelphstorm.com as well. Also, I have some other news for you guys. I have a CFL TSN analyst and former head coach, GM, and senior advisor, and 4-time Grey Cup champion, Jim Barker, coming on my podcast radio show next Tuesday, August 22nd. I think Tuesday, August 22nd at 4 p.m. Eastern. So Jim's going to come on and talk about his football career and coming up to Canada with the Montreal Alouettes in 1996, and what his thoughts are on the 2023 CFL season as well. And I want to say thank you to the Toronto Argonauts and Chris Belnovich for having me up in their media press box again. Yesterday, the Argonauts won again, 44-31 over the Ottawa Redblacks. The Argonauts are now 7-1 and now have a bye weekend. Speaking of the Toronto Argonauts, I have an Argo Bounce live audio show tomorrow night with my co-host Nick Small at 5:20 tomorrow Eastern. Special guest Sean Bowen. He's the son of Joe Bowen, but he's also with Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment, and Sean's also a part of the Toronto Argonauts as the in-game stadium host as well. So Sean Bowen's going to come on and talk some Argonaut football and maybe a little bit about Notre Dame football and Green Bay Packer football as well. A huge Notre Dame Green Bay fan and a really good guy. So I hope you guys can tune into the Argo Bounce live audio show tomorrow night, Tuesday night at 5:20 with co-host Nick Small, myself, and Sean Bowen from the Toronto Argonauts. And again, my next live with CDP Sports Talk will be next Tuesday, August 22nd at 4 p.m. with CFL TSN analyst Jim Barker. And I'm really looking forward to speaking to him as well. Guys, before we go, I just want to play a little video clip. I'm on a new website, and I hope you guys can hit me up for a video request. I'm just going to play it right now. Sorry about that, guys. Just technical issues. I'm hoping. Good morning, Chris. Good morning, Chris Pare here. I have now joined Cameo, so if you're looking for a personalized message, shout out, pep talk, birthday wishes, or just want to talk sports with Chris Pare, CDP here, please check out my profile on Cameo and request a video from me, and I will do my best to give you a good video shout out. Thanks, everybody. Good morning. All right, guys, that clip was courtesy of my YouTube channel. Sorry about the technical issues there, but I am now part of the Cameo family. If you're requesting a request, a birthday wish, greeting, pep talk, please look me up on Cameo under Chris Pare and book a video request, and I'll do my best to give you a great shout out. And it's kind of nice. I never thought I'd be on there, but I guess I have enough of a social media following to be on Cameo as well. So check me out there on Cameo under Chris Pare as well. Finally, guys, we're going to wrap up our show. Live with CDP Sports Talk is a weekly sports and entertainment talk show hosted by Chris Pare. Is on weeknights at 8 p.m. Eastern on radio station WQEE 99.1 FM, The Key, the home of Southern sports and talk, the heartbeat of Atlanta. The radio station's website is wqeefm.radio12345.com as well. Live with CDP Sports Talk is live streamed on these platforms: YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, LinkedIn. I know they call Twitter now X, but I still call it Twitter. Also, guys, you can check out my website, beacons.ai/Chris D. Palme. That's beacons.ai/Chris D. Palme. And all my previous podcast shows, radio shows, and all my social media sites are on there as well. Live with CDP Sports Talk, again, is sponsored by Barry Cullen Chevrolet Dealership at 905 Woodlawn Road West in the Guelph Auto Mall. Check out barrycullen.com for the newest selection of new and pre-owned GM vehicles, or give them a call at 519-824-0210, or email them at info@barrycullen.com as well. And also going on right now at Barry Cullen Chevrolet here in Guelph, Summer Adventures event, 4.99% financing for up to 48 months on 2023 Blazer RS. Again, check out barrycullen.com for more information about that as well. You can also follow me on TikTok at Live with CDP. I post a lot of content there, player and coaches interviews, and my social media work there as well. StreamYard is the official live stream provider of Live with CDP Sports Talk. If you're into webinars or podcasting, check out StreamYard.com as well. Finally, Live with CDP Sports Talk, the audio version is available on these platforms: iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, Spotify for podcasters, Apple Podcasts, Breaker, Pocket Casts, Radio Public, Spotify, Castbox, LinkedIn, Stitcher, and Tuned In. And again, weeknights at 8 o'clock on WQEE 99.1 FM as well. Also, guys, you guys can email me at chrispalme19@gmail.com if you have any questions, suggestions, or comments about Live with CDP Sports Talk as well. Again, I want to say thank you to my guest tonight, Ryan Drury, the Rogers TV play-by-play voice of the Guelph Storm, and Amber Campbell, Rogers TV camera operator, and she does a great job as a camera operator with Rogers TV and the University of Guelph. So again, thanks to Amber and Ryan Drury for coming on today. And it's hard to believe 310 episodes done. So, all right, guys, I hope everybody has a great evening, and we'll see you guys tomorrow night at 5:20 Eastern for the Argo Bounce Live audio show with Nick Small and myself. And our special guest is going to be Sean Bowen from the Toronto Argonauts. Have a great night, everybody. And again, thank you for watching and listening to Live with CDP Sports Talk, brought to you by Barry Cullen Chevrolet, and also weeknights at 8 on WQEE 99.1 FM in Metro Atlanta.